Alright, so I had a little trouble last night with my fan shroud. It looks like it's kind of coming apart in the back, and the carbs didn't really fit perfect. I could have made it work, but it would have made adjusting them kind of a pain. So what I did was I made a poor man's hippie hatch back here. I'm going to fix this by getting the correct door later. But I think it actually came out pretty good. So what I did was I measured back, and they're really hard to see, but there's these little spot welds right there that hold the hatch down to these cross braces inside. So I measured back, I drilled a couple of tiny little pilot holes to find the center, and then drilled out the spot welds and cut it along the edge of the rib there, so the cuts are hidden inside that little V-shaped strut, I guess, or gusset. These just give you access to, and you can see in there. So tuning dual carbs, pulling the motor out, pretty much checking anything from the top just becomes that much easier. I'm going to put some insulating tape, that foam stuff, all around, and then I'll put some screws back down through that brace in a few spots just to hold that flat. And the insulating tape will keep the nasty engine stuff from coming in, and then it'll also keep it from doing that as I drive around. So just a quick little dumb thing I had to do this morning just because I couldn't drop the motor, but I was going to do it anyways eventually, so we just got it done early. Okay, so we got the fan shroud bolted in nice and tight. I kind of wiped some stuff down in there. The order of this is going to be a little bit different. We need to first remove this nut in the case, because this is what the linkage attaches itself to. You can probably put the alternator in before you do this, but I find it's a little easier to show you with the alternator out. You can kind of see that this is longer than normal, this stud. I don't know if that's just because it's a later case, or if that's because somebody already had one of these linkages on this case. But any center mount linkage, you got to replace that stud with one that's just a little longer. Especially the billet twist ones, they're super thick to keep them stable, and they tie to this, and normally that stud's just enough to put this nut on. So we're fortunate that this one's long. The Kadron one doesn't take up too much room, but God, this thing is on there. Now you can put the alternator stand and the alternator back on. Okay. I have to probably loosen the shroud again, because you got to wiggle it around a little bit to get the fan in there. Put this back on. I'll leave these loose until I get it all in there. And when you put the alternator on, make sure you got that band slip towards the back. Watch your fingers. There we go. Just like that. When we line these up, I want to bolt the shroud back down before I tighten the alternator in there. That gives it a good base. Okay, so we're going to put not that one, because we need that for the linkage. But the other three can go on loosely. Okay, so this just goes over that, and it goes right through that. There. Always check in that fan, make sure that it doesn't rub on the shroud, because now would be the time to make any adjustments to that. Okay, let me get that over. I want to make sure that that's perfectly vertical and pushed in all the way to the case. That's important how the linkage works. It's got to be good geometry for smooth operation. Okay, I got the belt loose. We're going to attach that to this so it's not flopping around and in my way. Tighten down the stand. Yeah. Good and tight. Yep. Okay, now, because this is much easier to do with the with everything off, I'm gonna fish that rod through. It pops on the ball. Yeah. That's how that linkage works. Let's see that. I'll pull that throttle cable, pulls the arm, and the whole arm. Everything twists. Pretty cool. That's a lot easier to get that set up and put on there with none of this other stuff on. So we're going to do this stuff last after we get the carbs on. Pulled on this last night. And the wire broke, so I needed to fix that too. It's a good thing I'm doing all this, find all these issues. Another awesome tip from your old pal Jason is to make a loop on your fuel line, because the fuel line comes off of this carb pointing that way. And if you make it too tight, it's going to kink. And if it kinks, you're going to have a bad time because this carb's not going to get any fuel. So I make a little loop and I zip tie it here. Not too tight, just enough to hold it. Now it's not going to kink. And we left a little bit long here so that we can, get it to the carb and trim it. But you don't want your fuel lines to be super duper tight. So we're going to have some slack back here behind it because we have plenty of room we'll get this all bolted up, and then we'll have, room to move them around if we need to. We don't need the fuel line to be super duper tight. This is why you replace your crush gasket every time, because they get crushed. So you definitely want to get those old ones out. There's a seam, kind of hard to see, but there's a seam on the bottom of these. That's the bottom side. So you drop that down in your little hole, and then we get our carb down. It's worth it, I promise. When we get done, it's going to be worth it. Now that feels solid. Plenty of room down here to adjust my idle everything. That's good. I like it. Got our fuel light on. Down here we've got our breather tube, or our balance tube, rather. So that side's done. Now, look in here, grab our fuel line. We're going to put our little brass T in. This is going to distribute the fuel to the carbs. I like to do it in the middle. You don't necessarily have to do it in the middle. You can do it off to the side. I guess the pressure will sort of equalize itself. But I like it. Man, that was a hassle. Got everything in and bolted up and tied and set up and adjusted correctly. and I wasn't getting any fuel to the filter back there. And oh man, I thought it was the pump. I took the pump out, I switched it, still no big deal. Couldn't get the gas. Flipped the hoses around, thinking for some reason it was backwards. It wasn't. Flipped them back, couldn't get fuel. I tracked it all the way down to the needle and seat was stuck on both of them. Brand new out of the package. They had a problem, they were getting stuck, and the floats were they were way out of adjustment, which I've never had to adjust the floats on these Kadrons before. Usually just they're just good right out of the box. You know, you double shim the needle and seat to make up for the thicker gasket and you're good to go. So this took a little bit of work, had to keep taking the tops off. Really happy I cut that hole in the top because I just was able to pull the top of the carb off on each side and, you know, check with it, check the float, and finally got it running, got them adjusted, got the linkage set up, let it run for about an hour, just tweaking it, getting the idle just right. So it's good, fires right up. I think I burned up my starter. I'm still running a 6-volt starter even though it's a 12-volt system, so it fires off quick when it's running, but if you have a problem with it running, you know, you can burn up that starter pretty quick. So it makes a weird noise now. I may have to buy a new starter, but we'll get to that when it comes to it. So let me go fire it up and you guys can see how nicely it runs, and then I'm going to take it for a ride, and then we are done. Well, man, it runs so good, like so good. I gotta figure out what's up with that flat spot because it's just got a little bit of a hesitation just off of, I guess, idle or no throttle. Like when you shift and you get off the gas and then you get back into it, it just kind of and then it goes. But once it's going, man, great. I'm really happy with it. I think it's going to be good. Tons of torque. It's going to pull that trailer just fine. I really want that big motor in here, but I think for now this is going to be fun. Pretty excited actually about this the little hippie hatch I did, because you can't see it the way that I did it. You know, except for a couple screws that I put in there to hold it down under the bed. You know, everything is hidden inside the V here, and then this one is hidden inside the channel. So nobody would even know that's there unless they pick up the bed, which nobody, I don't think, is ever gonna do. So that's cool. I might just leave it like that and just seal it with some of that foam tape stuff, just to, you know, keep the fumes out. But I'm happy with it. I think it's cool. I like it. The you know, it runs great. They're a little crooked. I don't know what that's all about. They're tight and they're solid, and I sprayed them and there's no leaks. But I don't know. It'll look it'll just look interesting, you know, it's race car. But they seem to work great. So, and they're not icy. Like I said, they're not cold. The intakes are warm. Carbs are warm, so they're not running too rich or too lean. Overall, I think about an 8 out of 10. I got a little tweaking to do, but it's getting late. It's kind of been all day fighting that fuel issue. I don't know, but you should be able to do it now, sort of, from what you saw. Hopefully you don't have to change out your shroud. Mine was, I don't know what happened to it. It must have got smashed and I didn't see it or something. But it's split wide open, so that's no good. But lucky for me, I got a whole trailer full of parts over there on the side of the house, and I happen to have a nice 36 shroud, so I like the look of those a little better anyway, so should be good. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. This was kind of a long one again. I'm gonna, hopefully it's not too long after I get it all cut down, but We got the carbs in. We got the hippie hatch done. That's a twofer. You get 2 for 1 this week. And then something really great planned for the next one. I've already got parts on order that'll be here very soon. Another big upgrade that I've been wanting for a long time. So tune in for that. Comment down below if you got questions about any of this stuff that we did today. You know, building the carbs, putting the carbs in, choosing the right carbs. I don't know everything about carbs. I know very little actually, but usually the internet will help us figure it out. So and with that, you know, thanks for watching.